Okay, so first off, I wanted to welcome everybody and also recognize that we're on the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. I want to welcome all of our partners, our local industry, the elected officials that we have on the line. And I want to thank all the participants this far in contributing to the sector series. And it's been really an incredible journey because there's been a whole bunch of new people that we've met along the way, familiar faces, and lots of energy. So we're really excited to get moving with all the information that we pulled together. And so today we're going to be covering off lots of content, but hopefully you'll be equally inspired and excited when you're done this meeting. I also want to introduce the members of our economic development team that we have on the line today. We have Alicia Woodside. And Alicia, if you could just turn on your camera for a second, that would be great. Say hello, everybody. Maybe Alicia, if you could wave. Alicia Woodside is our economic development specialist. She's worked with the district on and off since 2017. And her focus is on developing the agri-food sector and also working with recreation technology and performance apparel industry and general ecosystem development work. And then we also have a new member of our team I'm going to put on the spot. I wanted to welcome Jennifer Stone. Jen, do you mind waving? Hi. So this is Jennifer Stone. She is our other economic development specialist on the team. And she is replacing Nicola Slater, who is very soon leaving on maternity leave. So a big welcome to Jen. And Jen is going to be focused on some of our other priority sectors, including tourism and media, marketing and film, as well as working on the general communications side of our economic development work that we do at the district. So I'm really excited to have Jen on board. So I'm just going to start in on some housekeeping. First of all, if you're having any sort of technical difficulties, Alicia is on standby to help you. You can put a message in the chat, or you are welcome to send her a message at her email address, awoodside@squamish.ca, if you are unable to use the chat. Keep an eye on that throughout the session. Please feel free to ask questions or make any comments using our chat function. And these are going to be answered or discussed at the end of the presentation. And this is just for time management purposes. So we encourage you to actively use the chat. Both Alicia and Jen are going to be monitoring the chat. It's muted so that we have a clear line. It's nice if you can to have your camera turned on because it's nice to see all your smiling faces. And it gives me a lot of energy when I'm presenting. So if you feel inspired to turn that camera on, it's appreciated. And then just lastly, we're going to be recording. Oh, look at that. People are turning their cameras on. Oh, some turned them off. And then we're going to be recording the session. So we've posted the majority of the sessions on our website, on the squamish.ca website. And we're going to be posting this one as well. And we also use this when we're going through the discussion topics and making sure that we're capturing all of the information. So the session is now recorded. So what we're going to be doing is a project overview. So providing an overview of how we got here, providing a summary of findings, what planned initiatives and initiatives that we have for further discovery as we move forward in this process. We'll have a bit of a group discussion and then just cover off next steps. So to start off with, in 2018, economic development with partners in industry and our former governance group called the Squamish Economic Steering Group undertook research. And this was to understand what sectors showed promise for development and increasing local employment, and also providing a greater quality of life for members within our community. And this work formed our sector ecosystem, which is on the screen, and it describes the composition of our sectors present within our community that would benefit from nurturing and development. And through this process, there were 2 thematic areas uncovered for further development: the green economy and outdoor recreation theme, which comprise of more nascent sectors which demonstrate great potential for Squamish. So the green economy, I'm just going to remind those who aren't as familiar, encompass activities that aim to reduce environmental risks, ameliorate ecological scarcities, and support sustainable development without degrading the environment. And industry opportunities are focused on technologies that reduce dependence on natural resources, help the economy shift away from fossil fuels, support a transition to a zero waste economy, and enable global warming to remain below 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this includes efficiency and energy technologies, green or high performance building innovation, and sustainable and innovative agri-food sectors. The outdoor recreation theme includes recreation technology, performance apparel design, digital media, marketing, and film. And our outdoor recreation activities are supported by an increasingly diverse cluster of companies, and that includes consumer products to business services to even green initiatives. And what they all have in common is that they don't just sell a product or a service, but instead a lifestyle. And that's to increase awareness and engagement by using our natural resources to link into consumer trends, fitness, wellness, and environmental sustainability. So in order to develop these 2 emerging areas of our local economy, in 2020, the District of Squamish Economic Development unveiled a strategic roadmap and action plan that provides the district and the stakeholders with tactics, timelines, and ideas for emerging sector development. The plan was endorsed by Squamish Council in June of 2020, and it's currently being implemented by the district with support from local and regional partners. So while this plan was an attempt to support the development of these themes, general business ecosystem development was also prioritized to the benefit of all sectors of the local economy. There were 2 key areas that formed the action plan that we're working on right now. Priority action, or priority area 1, which is really focused on foundational cluster development strategies. So that's understanding and uncovering our clusters, those involved, the companies involved, organizing the clusters, developing a vision for the clusters, and assessing the needs of these emerging clusters, as well as starting the networking and collaboration of clusters. So that's what we've really been working on through this emerging sector series process. As we move into priority area number 2, which is foundational business and investment attraction strategies, that's much more aligned in terms of creating a business opportunity or investment opportunity for Squamish as it relates to cluster development. So that could be attracting infrastructure that supports the development of these clusters, or actually increasing the firm count of these local clusters or strengthening the existing firms. That includes creating resource and capacity, building a team of ambassadors that can talk about these clusters and celebrate these clusters. That means getting ourselves ready with collateral, resources, tools, research, an understanding of who we are in terms of our business footprint. And developing messages, executing different campaigns, outreach to different stakeholders at different levels of government, and working to build our foundation and make it stronger. So to deliver on the priority area number 1, which is where we're at today, in addition to space needs and viability research, which is ongoing, Alicia on our team is heading up, the district has developed this emerging sector series, and this is the wrap-up event. And the series consisted of engagement with stakeholders, including industry, supporting organizations, and other levels of government. And this was to confirm a mission and vision for business ecosystem development, better understand the current business ecosystem and the barriers that we're facing, uncover opportunities for ecosystem development and the development of our emerging green economy and outdoor recreation clusters, and to develop a forward action plan and a supporting economic framework in order to develop the business ecosystem and these clusters. So one of the things that I'm pretty excited about is just the number of faces here today. But over the course of this engagement, we've talked to more than 100 participants. We've held 8 interactive workshops and focus groups. We've had 6 economic leadership team and economic partnership forum working sessions, and in addition, today's wrap up. Here's a highlight of some of the over 100 participants that were part of this process. So we had education, research and development. This included Quest, Capilano, CapU, UBC Faculty of Applied Science, SD48, our local school board. We've had capital and funding organizations, including Futurepreneurs, Spring Accelerator, Work BC, Vantech Angel Network, Vancouver Angel Forum, nonprofit organizations, the Squamish Chamber, Tourism Squamish, the Craft Beverage Association, the Climate Action Network. So the list goes on, and we're incredibly proud that all these partners and all these organizations and individual entrepreneurs have taken the time to participate in this process. So the following section will provide an overview of the findings related to this engagement process, including the strengths and weaknesses of our current ecosystem, an ecosystem vision, opportunities for development, and planned actions and next steps. So following this session, we're going to be finalizing an emerging sector series engagement report, as well as a business ecosystem map and summary of outcomes to share with all of you. And as we go through this session, if you find that there are missing elements that haven't been properly identified as part of our ecosystem, or additional insights that would be beneficial to this work, we encourage you to please share these through the chat or to reach out to our Economic Development Department at economicdevelopment@squamish.ca. By the end of this week would be really appreciated, because we're really trying to get this information out as soon as possible. So so when we're talking about the strengths of Squamish's business ecosystem, the sessions collated an inventory of specific programs, assets, and partners that are part or make up this ecosystem. And it really was encouraging to see how many organizations are involved in our business ecosystem, how many programs we actually have on the go and accessible to our local business community. And there's so many areas, from funding to education and training to policy development, business advising, infrastructure and networking, that are already well underway. So what I've done is I've worked with one of our talented graphic designers to come up with what is a draft ecosystem map. And this includes different thematic areas where we have existing assets and organizations supporting our ecosystem. So this is a snapshot. It's meant to be a snapshot, and we're in the process of finalizing this ecosystem. The map, as I said, has been categorized by support areas, and organizations and assets have been highlighted underneath. So we'll be sharing this short summary with all of you, and we encourage you to help us fill this in as we go. We want to keep this as a living and breathing document, and we know that the ecosystem is dynamic and ever-changing. And one of the other things that we would like to do is we would like to share a short summary of each of these organizations or assets that fall under the ecosystem, and we've been working to build that out. So if you do have a 1 or 2 sentence summary that you would like to see as part of the ecosystem, please send it our way. And there's one area also that I wanted to highlight is the recreation and lifestyle amenities. And we've included that as an important feature of our ecosystem, as through our research, we've found that this is a primary driver in terms of business development within Squamish. The primary driver seems to be the lifestyle draw to live here, and then who it attracts. And while there are many other features that support why Squamish is a great place to do business, the lifestyle driver seems to come out top of mind. So while we do have lots of supported assets and organizations and attractive features, there are some existing barriers in supporting the development of local sectors and realizing our full potential. So our research uncovered that there are limited financial incentives tied specifically to the clusters that we are looking to grow. So this includes revitalization tax agreements, processes and policies, so processes to expedite development that supports the development of these sectors, and policy. There's also limited dedicated resources for these emerging sectors in the form of associations, specific programming, and funding. There's a lack of innovation programming and space in Squamish that's dedicated to these clusters and our ecosystem. So space and programming could include accelerator, incubation, makerspace, R&D development labs. There was also a feeling that the emerging sectors aren't celebrated to the extent they could be, which limits the awareness locally and also beyond our region. There is a lack of formalized business mentorship programming that is within the district and focused on these sectors. There is a lack of or limited networking opportunities that's focused on these specific clusters, albeit there were many programs offered through the Chamber around networking and collaboration. There was also a lack of employment space supply, including purpose-built space for various business stages. That was a finding. And the high cost of employment, land, and space is a barrier of entry. There's opportunities to fill supply chain gaps, which would lead to greater productivity, and the lack of regional transit and workforce housing was brought up throughout this engagement series. So there's still lots of work to be done. So throughout the larger sessions and more focused deep dive focus groups, we also work with participants to uncover a unified vision for business ecosystem development. So from this process, there's 3 overarching themes that emerged for this vision. One, where we are positioned as a community of early stage innovators. One, where people in place values are closely connected to our local sectors and our business ecosystem. And one where clusters of businesses are interconnected with each other in a collaborative atmosphere. So a little later in the presentation, I'll be sharing a draft mission and vision mission and vision statements that were developed as a result of this process and the findings. So after identifying our strengths and barriers and following some of the initial visioning of what we would like our business ecosystem to look like in 5, 10, 15 years' time, we began the process to identify and prioritize actions or opportunities for ecosystem development and the development of our emerging themes. And I'm going to break these down into 4 clusters. So for the remainder of the presentation, so our emerging themes, the green economy and outdoor recreation, have been further broken down into the green technology and building cluster, the agri-foods cluster, the recreation technology and design cluster, and the adventure media, marketing, and film cluster. So this process uncovered many opportunities for general ecosystem development, as well as uncovering initiatives for the development of specific clusters. The opportunities have been presented under the heading of People, Business, and Place, which aligns to our general economic development work plan. We've actually created a glossary as well of terms that contextualizes each of these opportunities and what they mean for Squamish, and we are going to share that with the group as well post this meeting. So as you can see, there's a lot of different opportunities for development. And so one of the things that we felt was incredibly important to us to prioritize and figure out what we are capable of doing today, to identify partners who may be able to facilitate and fulfill on some of these opportunities as well, and to ensure that these opportunities actually result in the outcome that we're trying to achieve. This is just a snapshot of the glossary of terms. So there's about 3 or 4 pages of glossary of terms. So you'll be able to go through these in more detail when we send out the finalized documents. So throughout the larger sessions and deep dive focus groups, we ask participants to assign projects using an effort impact matrix. and that was shown on a previous slide. So major projects are ones that you would just focus on one or two at a time. Quick wins are, you should do these projects. It's important to your ecosystem development. The effort isn't as high, but the outcome, the impact is very, very high. Fill-in jobs, those are kind of lower impact, but lower effort, but lower impact as well. And really, you would only do that if there is tactical impact over time. And then thankless tasks, that's high effort, low impact, so really worth the time. So on the screen were opportunities or projects that fell into either the major project or quicker win quadrants for general ecosystem development. These are still fairly vague and broad in nature, but serve as a starting point for ecosystem supporters and development projects that support the overall well-being of the ecosystem. So the idea is that this is a place where we can take an opportunity and then expand on it and make sure that it actually achieves the outcome that we're striving for within the ecosystem. As I mentioned, we also undertook deep dive focus groups where we actually focused on each cluster to define specific actions. So for instance, with green tech and building sessions, there was keen interest to create local challenges and competitions to drive industry awareness and collaborative solutions. There was definitely interest in creating green tech and building parks, which incorporate the supply chain. There was also interest in focusing on circular economy development. And so there was many very focus and specific actions that the Green Technology and Building Cluster assigned as opportunities. For agri-food, there was some of the same, but we also heard about things like covered outdoor event space and year-round market space, commissary space for small entrepreneurs, and shared storage, refrigeration, and distribution. Product development lab, there's none in BC right now, which could be a key opportunity for Squamish moving forward. And things like asset matching, which would help businesses leverage each other's space and assets and tools throughout the industry. Recreation, technology, and design focused on purpose-built space with shared and common space for storage and distribution, temporary space for startup and scaling. This could be as simple as shipping containers and studio spaces, and research and development space. Definitely heard a lot about creating a directory of support services and prototyping services, which could be accessed by industry, and more industry events, trade shows, and storytelling about the industry here in Squamish. For venture media, marketing, and film, again, quite a bit about networking and industry events, but also there was a lot of comment about outdoor adventure-based infrastructure. So continuing to increase our outdoor adventure-based infrastructure to strengthen our brand as a recreational lifestyle location, and that really helps strengthen their brand when they're working within Squamish. And also, definitely there was a mention of pre and post production space, a directory just to uncover who's here and what their competencies are, and also a location directory. So we'll be sharing this as well when we share out all of the documents. So moving from findings to action. So taking all the information into account, we worked with our economic leadership team and partner forum group members to complete draft mission and vision statements, select an economic framework, which could be used as a lens for ecosystem development, decision-making, and evaluation, and identify initial major projects that would be of interest for further discussion and potential development. So a smaller group of ELT and EPF participants took place, and they took the results from our visioning engagement work and considered our guiding community goals, vision, and value, and created the following mission and vision statements. So the vision statement: in 2025, Squamish has a vibrant, diverse, and sustainable economy that honors the natural environment and provides opportunity for all. And Squamish's ecosystem mission statement, which is to nurture a diverse economic ecosystem by enabling investment, innovation, and learning while stewarding our heritage, natural environment, and adventurous culture. And we'd love to hear from you on what you think of those statements and if they reflect what you think the statement should. And these statements are really meant as a guide for our ecosystem development and to take into account our overarching community vision when in the process of economic development. We also created draft visions for each of the clusters, and when I say we, economic development took the findings from our deep dive sessions and worked on some draft vision statements. And these visions are going to be refined over time based on feedback from industry. So the vision for agri-foods is Squamish will be home to a diversity of agri-foods businesses that are supported by a vibrant and circular economy. The Recreation, Technology and Design Cluster vision is to be Canada's natural location for outdoor adventure lifestyle brands and content creators. The Green Technology and Building Cluster vision is Squamish is BC's natural location to launch and grow a sustainable business. And the Adventure Digital Media Marketing and Film Cluster vision is Squamish will be Canada's home base for content creators who inspire people to lead a healthy outdoor adventure lifestyle while respecting our natural environment. So these are by no means complete. These are just a launch pad. As we proceed through our work in 2021, we're hoping to solidify these visions a little bit more, but we thought we would start with these to encourage some healthy discussion. The ELT and EPF members also got together, and this was to select an economic framework that could be used as a lens for decision-making and evaluation purposes. The donut economy, which was developed by Kate Raworth, is a framework that uses social UN sustainability goals and ecological ceiling or planetary boundaries that have been developed by earth scientists to form a donut, which is defined as a safe and just space for humanity to thrive in a regenerative and distributive economy. So the idea is that our place is to stay within the green donut and not to fall short in terms of meeting our social foundation and providing basic needs for all people, and not to go beyond our ecological ceiling and risk our planet. So essentially, the idea is that the green is safe and just for all of humanity, and we're going to thrive within that green circle, and that the circle is regenerative and distributive by design. So it looks complex, but it is actually, it can be as simple as understanding that everybody's basic needs to be met within our community through our economic development work. And through our economic development work, we are not going to exceed our ecological ceiling. Also, we have gone through the list of opportunities that we uncovered through this process and looked at this in relation to the work that economic development or the district is already undertaking. So we have a bit of a list here of things that we are working on for our overall ecosystem development as part of our emerging sector plan, in particular our priority area number 2 that I talked about earlier. We are going to be working on sector-specific storytelling and branding. We are going to be creating familiarization tours, and we are going to be presenting very soon employment-based research results. We are initiating or implementing a strategic procurement policy which has been endorsed by Council in 2021, and we're hoping to create tools for local industry to be able to leverage the work that the district has done and also participate in procurement with the district of Squamish. Under the Green Tech and Building Cluster, We are continuing to try to advance efforts to encourage a green technology and business building business park to be located in Squamish. We're always looking for municipal, academic, and local industry partnerships, so that's an ongoing effort. Under media, marketing, and design, and recreation, technology, and apparel, we have planned sector directories as well as network building opportunities for 2021. And with agri-foods, you know, there is consideration for covered outdoor space moving forward in 2021. We are working on a pilot, hopefully with one of our partners, on commissary kitchen access for micro businesses and startups, and doing lots of creating lots of opportunities in the area of training for agri-foods with UBC Feeding Growth. So there's lots underway, and we'll continue to go through the opportunities that have been identified and prioritize those under our district plans. So in addition to that, the Economic Leadership Team and Economic Partnership Forum members recently got together to discuss what priorities or actions could be prioritized for collective action and collective exploration. And this conversation yielded 2 major projects to continue to explore and determine whether or not we're able to develop moving forward. So the first one is shared innovation and training space. And this has been described as a centralized and shared concept for learning, innovation, and the development and scaling of business concepts. This can incorporate makerspace, accelerator, incubator space, as well as company creator space. And the discussion around the table was very positive, but we have much work to do to actually realize the development of this space. The second major project is circular economy development. So this refers to a systematic process that is regenerative by design and aims to gradually decouple growth from the consumption of finite resources. So the circular economy is based on 3 principles, designed to design out waste and pollution, keep products and materials in use, and regenerate natural systems. So the idea here is to create different programs and opportunities for industry to align circular economy thinking within the economy. And so there's 2 different ideas that were discussed at the table, and our next step is to meet separately, and we're actually recruiting active participants that want to be involved in these discussions that actually can play a role in the development and implementation. So more information will be coming on that shortly. So finally, there's lots and lots of initiatives for collective action, collective exploration outside of those 2 major projects that I've talked about. And we have so many active partners and organizations and individuals that are impassioned around developing Squamish's business ecosystem and supporting the development of clusters. So this is a fairly significant list of different actions, but as a next step, perhaps you can start thinking, which ones would you prioritize? Which ones align to your mandate? What approach would you take? Could you lead this initiative or could you support it? When would you start something like this? And what would be the outcome that you're trying to create or impact? So that concludes the presentation of findings and our actions. And so we're going to move over to more of a Q&A, and then I'm just going to wrap up with next steps. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Alicia or Jen, do we have any comments in the chat or any questions?
There's a couple supportive comments from Andreas and Glenn, and also Tiff Shen, one of the initiatives she supported. I'm just asking her more detail about which part of the initiative. yeah, lots of support so far.
No questions?
No
Wow.
questions.
Okay. Well, how about I put, oh, Karen.
That was a great presentation, Kate, and gives a real sense of the work that's been done, which is amazing. When I know we talk about angel investors and the importance of high net worth individuals, but I'm wondering also if, because the corridor is quite, it's full of tight-knit communities, whether anyone explored the idea of sort of a more cooperative model of funding local initiatives. So I'm thinking of something like the 100 Women Who Care. And so everyone puts forward $100. Of the 100 members, you get $10,000, and then the members get to vote on where it goes. And you can build on that model from a cooperative perspective. So rather than relying on just a few high net individuals, you actually get the whole community involved in funding initiatives at various levels. So someone maybe starting out in agri-foods doesn't need $100,000, they need $20,000. And that's a different level than, a RegTech startup that might be wanting that much bigger investment. So I think we should also play up the strengths of our corridor and show that model is actually already working in the not-for-profit world and could actually work to benefit people here in terms of local employment and supporting that.
I think that's a great comment, and I think that that's something that wasn't specifically talked about during the engagement session, but it is a model that I'm also seeing more and more. In fact, I see some local startups actually using that model right now in terms of equity and capital raising. So I think that that's something to add to the list. Does anybody have any feelings on that model, or have they seen other examples of it where it's been incredibly successful?
I really like.
I can't see everybody, so I don't know.
Oh,
I can.
This is Tiff Shen. I really like what
Tiff, I can't hear you very well. Can everybody else hear Tiff?
Hear me?
Not well.
Oh, darn. Maybe I'll turn off my video. That might work.
No,
Okay.
it's a microphone.
Technology. I need to get a new phone. Anyways, hopefully you can hear me, or else I'll put it in the chat. I like what Karen said. I've been speaking with different communities around alternative investing models, and the fact that there's two initiatives on there that I think there can be combined, which is the circular economy and the angel investing, where there's like community funds, and I've heard of that working really well in some of the island communities, where they have community funds where they're smaller funds, but you're funding your neighbors, you're seeing where it goes, and so the ROI on that is more than just what's coming back from far away. It's something that you're actually watching your neighborhood grow, and so that's something that might be interesting to explore, because it touches in on the investment side as well as on circular economy. So just wanted to pipe in with that because I really liked what Karen said.
So this is Richard. I've been thinking a little bit about this too, and I like Karen's comments as well. I was sort of starting at the end of, if we get startups going and there's venture capital and then there's angels in the high net worth group that fit into the accredited investors, that is an interesting couple of groups. But fortunately, the government changed the rules about investing a couple of years ago, whereby now people with smaller checks can come together and form groups to invest. And I think we can take those that are in the 1,000, 10,000 range. And then what you've extended here, which I wasn't thinking about, was how do you extend that down from the $1,000 to the $100 and bring those bits together as well. So I think that what we'd have, if we were able to think about it, is how do we make sure we put the complete spectrum of the types of funding that might be necessary to support businesses here, and do it in a very deliberate way.
Hi there, it's Wendy Coe, and just along that vein on community investment, there is this, just sharing with you guys, BC Community Impact Investment Coalition. So there are these community groups. Mostly you see them out in either Kootenays, this one on Sunshine Coast, and on the islands as well. I think Tiffany mentioned that. And so definitely something to kind of look into as well for the Sea to Sky corridor or for Squamish and the Pertness, because I think that's something that perhaps ties in along the vein of what Karen's saying. And I can send that information off to you, Kate.
That would be really great, Wendy. And I know that there are, some crowdfunding new platforms out there that are much more aligned to, gathering community-minded investment. But I think it would be great to get what programs are publicly available.
Wendy,
any other thoughts on funding?
Sorry, just jumping in, Wendy. Could you please repeat the name of that program?
Sure. Hi there. Sure. It's called the, if I remember correctly, it's the BC Community Impact Investment Coalition.
Great.
Just as an additional thought, we need to make sure we check where the lines get drawn on contribution that can be crowdfunded versus turned into equity into businesses, because we just don't have carte blanche to do that without getting into trouble with the government and the problems in the past that have occurred on schemes like this. These all can be done, but we just need to make sure they get structured properly.
Any other thoughts or comments on the subject? No? Okay. Oh, Eric.
Yes, I thought I would raise the topic of the, now Kate, you'll be able to help me with the phrasing, but we have around the province 3 or 4 economic development funds in the Kootenays, the Coast Islands. We are not a part of one as yet, but I think it would be of interest for us to follow them and monitor programs such as what we're talking about right now. Community investment funds, they do come up. They are supported by such regional funds, and we should be looking to the future when we are a part of such a regional economic development funding pot. Hopefully that will happen. We're certainly working towards that concept in dialogue with the province. So these are hubs of information about ongoing programs such as what we're talking about. Thank you.
Absolutely. So those are the regional economic development trusts, and there is none for the Sea to Sky corridor. Chris.
Yeah, just one thought I'll add, and I love the idea. Having gone or being in the midst of a startup right now, my understanding of what people were talking about in terms of startup versus angel investment and what the magnitudes of all these things are, I've learned a ton. And so from what I've seen, what we're talking about here is probably more realistic for a more locally focused business, or getting you to that stage where you can then go to an angel round. And I just, as we're talking about focusing on some of those startups and people dipping their toes into the water, I think it will also be important for us to be fairly clear about where this fits into the whole investment life cycle. Because I know myself, I just didn't understand the magnitude of what is an angel investment, what do you need to get started, and all these pieces. And I think just that understanding can be really helpful to people. And so just as we move forward, I think that's going to be important.
And I think that's helpful for us in economic development to understand sort of what resources we could create around understanding different funding mechanisms as well. So as we develop out programs or opportunities around funding, also creating the resources so people within our community that are thinking about starting or growing or scaling their business, they know what's out there and available to them. So that's a great point.
Sorry, and just building on Chris's point, if I may, I think that what I hear around here is different people have knowledge of different areas and different types of funding. And therefore, if we bring the right group together, I think we'll be able to have a broader sort of view as well. And I'm happy to contribute the bits I know, but there are certainly other people that have parts that I don't know of this ecosystem as well.
Okay, great. Well, I can see a working group starting already. And I'm in active recruitment. Watch what you say during this meeting because you'll be held to it. Alicia and Jen are both taking notes, and we have your voice recorded. So, what about? Tiffany wrote something here about commissary and collaborative trading, buying, logistics, startup incubator and mentorship programs. So I'm guessing that Tiffany is having trouble with her sound.
Great. I think that is, I had asked Tiff which initiative she liked earlier because she had said, oh, one of the initiatives she loved seeing. So I believe that's in response to that.
I actually really like seeing a lot of them. I love the collaborative and circular economy. The agri-food space was one I wanted to comment on just because I'm in that space, and I had originally been down in Vancouver before, and we had a lot of Sea to Sky people from Squamish in Vancouver, and I think, you know, it'd be awesome to keep the agri-foods people, entrepreneurs in Squamish and in the space that they live and reside, making their products. And being able to trade where they live. So wanted to put that in there, that I think is a really important initiative.
Alicia, were you able to hear that? Because I really wasn't able to make out what Tiffany said.
Yeah, I guess for those of you who could not hear Tiffany very well, it's a shame because it was a good point, but essentially Tiff works in the food sector, and coming from Vancouver previously, she said that a lot of entrepreneurs were going down to the city to access space and grow their business, and it would be great to keep them in Squamish. Sorry that I had to paraphrase you, Tiffany. Not quite as eloquent, but.
Well, I think that kind of maybe is a good conversation topic for this group too. When we were working with select ELT and EPF members, we were having a conversation about shared innovation and learning space. And one of the discussion topics, we still obviously have to move to next steps in terms of discovery around this, was what type of learning and innovation space would be of greatest benefit. And you know, one of the comments that was made was that clusters like agri-foods and green building and clean tech have very specific needs when it comes to development space, and so they're looking for specific infrastructure and tailored to their industry. And whereas, you know, general ecosystem development might be more around providing people with the skills and knowledge around business startup or entrepreneurship skills and more general development space. So, I mean, I think I'll open up the floor here in terms of how would you tackle shared innovation learning space here in Squamish? And I guess the question is, do you start with the clusters in mind, with each cluster in mind, and develop out that space, or do you start with a general ecosystem innovation learning model? I know Richard, I think, was part of that conversation, Abby and Kelly, who's on the line. So feel free to jump in and explain, and Dennis, if I'm not explaining it well to everybody else.
I'm happy to start. I don't want to hog conversation here. So yeah, we talked about there are general things that are common to all businesses, those that are small businesses and will always be small businesses, those that are start small businesses but will be high growth businesses, and those that have common need and common space. So as a starting point, you might want to think about how do we create some common area which allow this sort of diversity of use. But then for each sector, there's going to be specific specialty needs that they're going to have. So the thought being, start with something that's common, but get the input from each area to say, as we build it out, how do we add on this special need for the food agri area, and this special need for the green area, and things like that, different for the media area. But if we start with one, then the others feel left out in the cold, and yet many of the things and services are going to be the same. Does that summarize the discussion?
I think so. What are people's opinion on that? Abby.
I think another element that came up in multiple conversations that we've had over the many months of having these discussions was the embedded training, the mentorship, and the research and development. So having a space where tertiary institutions could come in to provide, whether it's training or assistance with research and development, etc., having a common space where this could be done as the need arises or as the investment comes in is easier than any one post-secondary institution finding space and establishing a fixed program. So this space serves multiple needs with what Richard was talking about in generating economic development, but also meeting community needs and expanding business possibilities. So the space is very important to allow for these possibilities.
So building on the space, one of the other discussion topics we've had is, let's just make something happen. So do you spend a lot of time planning and organizing and purpose building a space, or do you start small and take advantage of space we've already got? Multitudes of space that are scattered or spattered throughout our community. The fact that we're facing a pandemic right now and generally are engaging virtually at least for the near term presents an opportunity to us to try to establish something that's more program oriented to start. So I guess the discussion around the table that we were having was really about how do we be nimble and quick and get moving on this innovation space. So any ideas or thoughts there? John?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a bit of a challenge in that when we're trying to set goals for our sustainability and going forward, while also trying to jumpstart this space. I think one of the biggest challenges is that we got high cost of land, and to do a purpose-built building is going to be quite a bit of a cost as well. So it's going to be taking advantage of these older spaces, but finding that happy medium between how can we start something small in a smaller, older space that's retrofitting it, maybe not meeting the full standards and the vision of where we need to be or we need to get to be on a green side, but it allows us to jumpstart this and get a proof of point. From there, you can potentially start to create something in newer spaces once we've got the proof of concept. But that's sort of what I see on this one, what we've got to balance.
Any other thoughts? Chris, and then Peter.
Yeah, I just want an observation, a couple smaller startups that I've seen in the last couple of years. One is Green Thumb Technologies, another is Spruce Race Timing. And what I've seen them is being at the stage where they are, basically soldering or sawing or drilling things in a bedroom or maybe a garage. And for them, even having a place where they can use a drill where there's not solder fumes in their bedroom, where there's a 3D printer, even just some basics for that size could be a pretty big step forward. And so there's maybe value in something as simple as that, a space with just some basic tools like that.
And I don't think SD48 is on the line today, but we've had conversations with SD48, and I know that Amy from our Arts Council is also eager to talk to House Sound about using space that already exists within their trades area to try to be able to access some of the great tools and equipment that they have there. They have 3D printers and they have CNC machines, but obviously that takes some conversation. Peter, and then Karen, and then Eric. Peter? Oh, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Peter? Okay, Karen, we're going to move over to you, and then Peter, you can work out your sound and we'll come back to you, okay?
Thanks. So I agree with John. I think we just need to start somewhere and go and follow the momentum and have a quick win or a proof of concept that we can start to show, whether it's post-secondary or through a grant from government to build something bigger. But I also don't want us to forget about like small groups like the Men's Shed, which actually has a workshop, and they're going to get an even better workshop when West Winds is done. And that's a group of guys who have a lot of experience to share and would probably get a big kick out of helping a young entrepreneur build a prototype or do whatever. And so, you know, we can work with the school district, but it's also about showing people where all of the assets are. And you can start really small. And there might be people that are still living in big single family homes and have a garage that they can lease to a little startup. And so I think we just have to be, and I know Chris is always saying this, like flexible in our thinking about where businesses start up and where they can be. And we shouldn't be afraid to think small. And maybe identifying, if we haven't already, where all those older spaces are. And we might want to try and protect them. And I'm sorry, I have to drop off. I have a board meeting now, but I'm really excited to be part of this ongoing evolution of our thinking. So thank you. Thanks to all of you.
Karen, our Mayor Karen, thank you very much, Mayor Elliott, and we'll take that into consideration and have a good board meeting. So we are actually developing a directory of assets as part of our 2021 initiatives. So this is great conversation to understand like the types of assets that we should be including within the directory, including prototyping assets such as the Men's Shed. So we're going to be taking notes on that information as well. And then Alicia, I thought maybe you might have some really top line insights. I'm putting you on the spot through your research as well into different employment space needs that might lend itself to this conversation.
Sure. So some of you have participated in our research. So thank you for that. Essentially, we're interviewing about 50 businesses, majority of them local businesses. But in some cases, we're including companies from the Lower Mainland when we feel like we're missing kind of a certain size of company in a certain sector here. So I'm wrapping up this week, and basically we'll be doing analysis following that. But, you know, so far I can echo what Kate said earlier about the lifestyle being really important and a key driver for companies setting up here. So that's something that we want to ensure we continue to identify going forward and support. Otherwise, I think I need a little bit more time, Kate, to dig in. I don't want to.
I'm just thinking around the sort of R&D development space needs of our local businesses. You were mentioning some stuff to me that a lot of the bigger players have established R&D, but some of the smaller, more micro businesses would really benefit from shared space.
Yeah, I've found so far that the kind of more established apparel companies would have their own kind of custom built space, and generally they have the funding to do that. And it is more this kind of initial, almost at proof of concept stage before significant investment, where the kind of shared R&D would be kind of more of a value add. But yeah, super initial. So I think I'll need a little bit more time to really dig in depth.
Sounds good. So keep an eye out for Alicia's research. Peter, we're going to go back to you and see if we can hear you now, and then over to Eric.
Peter has said that he's having some issues with the WebEx format, unfortunately. He said he doesn't have access to microphones, so Kate, we might need to give him a little bit more time.
Sure. We can move
Peter,
to Eric.
Can you dial in on your phone, Peter?
Yeah,
If you go,
Peter,
if
I'll
you go to the
post
top of the, if you go to the top of the screen under audio and video and you select switch audio, it'll give you a phone number that you can dial into.
and I'll also
Eric,
post it in the chat for everyone in case that happens again.
Eric, we'll move over to you.
Sure. On the general topic of space and incubation, R&D type of spaces, I'd like to highlight an example of a CADWorks lab. Now, a computer assisted design lab has been under active discussion here over the past couple of years in relevant to the green building cluster, but it's also relevant to manufacturing and other sectors as well. Now, a CADWorks lab doesn't need a dedicated space. It's more of a program, very flexible, and it might need some proximity, but maybe not necessarily to active businesses. But I raise it because maybe we can get hung up on the concept of space, and that we should be careful to think that they are programs as well, and not necessarily ongoing and permanent, but they come and go. With respect to CADWorks, it's generally younger people, but they come and go. They come and go with our recreational lifestyle as well. But there is an ongoing need for new people and new startups and whatnot with those kinds of skills and inputs into business and into new products. So that's relevant to the building sector, but others as well. But I just wanted to highlight that we can also think of, we should be careful to think of programs as well as spaces. And this will help us in framing our discussion of space needs. Thank you.
I think that's a great point. And also more scalable, like in terms of turning the dial. It's something that we have focused on. That we call our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is virtual as well as it can be physical. So we try to bring in lots of programs through our economic development department. But I know that the Chamber and Tourism Squamish is doing the same thing, and other organizations throughout the district to try to make them accessible, as well as academic institutions. Do we have Peter now on the phone or not yet? Not yet. Any other comments? Anything surprising, anything missing in terms of our sector opportunities, or anything for more debate? I know, Carlos, you often bring up financial incentives and policy and process of the district. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I'm trying to unmute. Does that work?
Pardon? Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. It says I'm muted on mine.
I don't know what's up with the sound today, but I also had the power go out 3 times today. Okay. Oh. I think Carlos is in.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't want to be cheeky in asking this, Kate, so I was going to ask you after the call. But I see that there's some action items and some calls to action for our group on our side. And I'm wondering if there's a similar list that's been compiled on the district side of kind of calls to action and next steps as a result of this process.
You mean in terms of us, like what we're going to be doing? So we've got our list of actions that we've identified that we're already working on. And what we plan to do is go through these opportunities internally and make sense of them in terms of, are we planning to action these in the next year, 2 years? Is this something that we should be prioritizing in terms of district initiatives? So by all means, these items are going to be looked at in detail, and we'll be sharing this. Actually, we have a planning meeting next week with our planning department and engineering department, the top line findings of this information. So absolutely, awesome. Would love to hear a little bit more. Maybe if you could indulge us with some of your thoughts around financial incentives policy and process.
Well, yeah, I guess my kind of list of I struggle with the large conceptual policy work. I'm definitely more an actions guy in the planning kind of realm, but I know that the things in our world, in the development world that we deal with frequently is involves questions about tax incentives, so revitalization tax exemptions. Some of them exist in places in Squamish. Some of them, we personally would like to see extended. And then, of course, timing. And we could be very competitive and create a real competitive advantage if, for these priority sectors, if we had streamlined processes that we could say, okay, if you come in and make a deal on a new building, a new office building, it can be, zoned, development permitted, building permitted, and we can guarantee it in this timeline. And right now that just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in many places in the province, so Squamish isn't unique. And in places like Vancouver, those timelines are sometimes 2 or 3 years. So I don't think I hope that that's not the timelines for that type of stuff in Squamish, but if we could offer, 1-year processes or shorter to get shovels in the ground, that could be massively advantageous when we're attracting new firms to this community.
And you did make a suggestion in our conversations, and a couple of other folks we've heard from too throughout this process about the idea of having economic development planning resources. So planning resources that are dedicated to these clusters and the ecosystem development side of things.
Yes. Yeah. If there could be a dedicated staff person from engineering, from planning, and in the building department, and when a new file comes across their desk, they're all working collaboratively on that and moving it through the process. Because often, the longest wait times are the planners and the building department actually having the time to focus on an application. It's not reviewing the application necessarily. It's that they've got a queue of 3 months before they can even open it up. So, the actual review of a building permit sometimes only takes a week, but it might take 3 to 4 months to get there. So that's where I think if to the councillors on the line, if a budget for staff time could be opened up to, and if it has to be a comprehensive framework and strategy to make sure that it's not being abused, the system's not being abused, but if there could be a clear way to say, this is a priority for us in this district, this application either meets it or it does not. If it does, you go through this process, and I think that could do a lot to help grow these businesses in our community.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that from anybody else? Or responses?
I have a follow-up question, Carlos. You mentioned it's not happening in many communities. Are there a couple examples that you can share where you have seen this?
Oh gosh. Honestly, not offhand. But I'm happy to, there's sources that we can reach out to, like Urban Land Institute or UDI. And I know that other municipalities are certainly thinking about this. But I have no concrete examples, unfortunately. I would look very smart if I did.
Peter.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It worked. I went out, and it's amazing when we don't want to be heard, they listen to you. When you want to be heard, they don't listen to you. Actually, my comment was with respect to the agri-food part of this. It's interesting, the building permits. My question was about, or my comment was about permits and regulations pertaining to food products. I think as part of the educational process, we need to inform would-be entrepreneurs on what that looks like, and it's not simple. I've worked with a lot of small food companies who would rather circumvent the regulations because they don't know. So they need to pay attention to what the rules and regs are to get the required permits, whether they're safety permits or whatever. I think that needs to be a component of our training in this area, because it is often a bugaboo and prevents growth in the sector.
Alicia, can you speak a little bit about some of the programming that you're aware of, and Tiffany, feel free to chime in too.
Sure. I think right now there are quite a few programs, but they are more fragmented. They're not all under one kind of organization or larger umbrella programs, so they may be more difficult to access. So for example, the Squamish Food Policy Council, they do have lots of training available to entrepreneurs, and they're focusing a lot on the production side. And then last year we partnered with the Food Policy Council to bring more access and visibility to the UBC Farm Feed and Growth Accelerator program. So we offered small subsidies to local food companies who wanted to take that program. And so those are just a couple examples. I do know that the local Vancouver Coastal Health Office, who's involved in those regulations, they're very supportive. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to maybe collaborate with them a little bit more and kind of maybe highlight some of these, I guess, resources and the knowledge, and just bring it to a higher level.
Any other thoughts? I don't know if Tiffany has access to.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
clearly.
Maybe. Oh, okay. I put it in my headphone. Maybe that's a secret. So sorry for my tech difficulties. They've been frustrating. In terms of food programs, yeah, I love to speak to a little bit about this just because that's what I was building and running for a while.
Oh, you're coming in and out, Tiffany.
Okay, can you hear me? And hopefully you can hear me. Okay. Hello?
Yes.
So what I was saying is I love to speak on this because I've been managing food programs for both city and smaller communities for a while, and I would love to comment a bit about that. So there's a lot of programs out there, and a lot of them are very useful for different reasons. I think being connected with the food policy side is important. Having the production side taken care of is important. But the reality for a lot of food entrepreneurs, the hard part is actually in the sales. It's in the marketing, sales, and also the logistics of that, especially with small communities that are not connected to like the big city. Like Vancouver, you have access to distributors and sales point very easily. When you're in communities that are further, and I've worked with communities I've been working with entrepreneurs like in Haida Gwaii, for example, which is a much different community. It's much further. There's always barriers and challenges that are really real and constant that make that business a lot harder. So I think, those are some things when we were looking at Squamish food entrepreneurs or Sea to Sky food entrepreneurs, those are kind of barriers they face and challenges they face, which is access and logistics. And there's ways around it or ways to plan for it, but that's just something I think is very specific to our region, and that's what a lot of the entrepreneurs really need help with. So those are some of my thoughts on what the kinds of programming we provide that needs to be provided to the entrepreneurs are not, the regulatory, absolutely, about production and scaling, absolutely, but also how to get them businesses successfully running and expanding where they are.
Yeah, that's definitely a finding that we heard throughout this process around creating sales opportunities and distribution opportunities for agri-foods. There's some good news that's coming out of Squamish. There's a couple of new businesses. There's one called Grounded Grocer, and they are featuring lots of local product. And there's a new business that's right now looking for investment. I think it's female-led. And it's going to also feature local food products. So we're hearing more and more about businesses acting as local distribution hubs here in Squamish, which is great, but I would agree it can be a real key challenge for agri-foods. Any other thoughts? I know Kelly's on the line, but I don't know if she's able to speak. One of the big topics that's been floating around, in particular for clean technology and green building, has been the idea of demonstration projects. So projects that are demonstrating a new innovation or technology using civic infrastructure. And that's been a discussion topic. And looking at that from the value of, solving civic issues, and challenges, and be integrating our clusters into our built space, our built environment and planned environment, and also tackling things like climate change. So that's another area that we're keen to look at, and how do we create public-private partnerships where we are looking at these innovative solutions and demonstration opportunities. And we do have a fairly significant real estate and facilities master plan that's underway. So we'll be looking at that in terms of opportunities moving forward from an economic development standpoint. And I know that there is a program that Kelly was talking about. Kelly, are you able to talk, or are you?
Yeah.
Okay, there you are.
Hi, everyone. I'll start my video here as well. So that the program that I'm aware of is through the Vancouver Economic Commission, where it's focused primarily around clean tech companies, where they offer up city infrastructure in order to demonstrate their company's services or products, and that really helps them to have the city be that first customer. So it's almost like the first step before the strategic procurement program that the city could also develop. Just allows companies to really showcase what they're doing and helps them to get that first customer.
Any thoughts or ideas on that concept and its value? Well, it's sunny out today, so I'm guessing that people want to finish the meeting and get outside. Oh, Chris.
Yeah, I just want to go back to Carlos's point briefly, and I think what he was speaking to, and it does make a lot of sense to me. But that speaks to, I think, the significantly different scales of businesses we're talking about here. And I think in terms of guaranteed 1-year rezoning and so on, that's talking, to my mind, someone we're attracting, or maybe 1 or 2 businesses in the next 5 years that are ready to go to that stage, or at least in that order of magnitude. What I think there's possibly a lot more of, is that person that's ready to move out of their bedroom or out of their garage into a space. And what I've seen when you're at that stage, a week is almost too long to know, can I do this in this space I want to rent? Because someone else is going to rent it if I don't, and I don't know. And although our planning staff and the entrepreneur may be using the same words, they're coming from very different universes and have a very different understanding of what they're actually talking about. And so I think, to the degree as well that they're being innovative, they're probably wanting to do things that our zoning bylaw hasn't even contemplated. And so how do we sort of make sure that the entrepreneurs and our planning staff understand each other, and we can find a way to kind of work at the incredibly fast pace an entrepreneur seems to want or need, whereas as a district, we want this plan to sort of work for the whole community. And so I'm not sure quite what the answer is, but I think that is a tension I see for a lot of the really smaller startups.
I know that Carlos has his hand up. I will say, though, that the work that Alicia is leading right now in terms of space needs assessment and viability, I think will glean into the needs of various industries in Squamish, which can be preemptive in essence. So that we'll be providing that information all to our planning department, but also the development community, which might open some doors and allow us to better understand what people are looking for. Carlos, he's buffering, but I'm going to let him try to respond and speak to it. I think he's frozen. Okay. Carlos, are you there? You're there. We can hear you. Go ahead, speak. Okay. Well, that didn't work out. I don't know what's going on with WebEx today. I'm just going to say that this is probably, well, it's been a great discussion. We could probably go on and on and on and talk about all different things. If anybody has any last thoughts, kind of say it now. I'm just going to go into quick next steps. And oh, Carlos, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll see if I can just make this quick. Chris, I totally get what you're saying. I just think that my 2 cents on that is that, you know, dedicated staff time actually it fixes that problem for large businesses all the way down to entrepreneurs looking to get into space, because it's just as important. It's probably more important for the entrepreneur looking at a tenant improvement and saying, do I have to go to the bank and have a 3-month finance window instead of a 3-week finance window? That's all changed with the dedicated staff. So it's like, in my mind, if this is a priority in our district, let's put some money to staff time, and let's see if those applications come in. And you could start by having it be % of staff time, so that if they're not working on that, they're working on something else that's critical. But my 2 cents on that.
Okay. Any closing thoughts before I just summarize next steps? Okay, so again, I'm going to say this. Do you or your organization want to lead or support one of the economic development actions? And we'll be sharing all of this out with you, as well as the summary documents that we're finalizing. Are we missing something critical? Did we get something wrong? Because that's bound to happen. And can you share that with the team? So please reach out to us at economicdevelopment@squamish.ca and let us know. We want to hear from you, and we want your 2 cents. And we got thick skin. So if you don't like something, please let us know. And continue to be part of this conversation. Connect through our events, our outreach, our research, our advising services. Let other people know the work that we're doing, and that all of the partners that were part of this today and previous sessions are doing. So I think one of the best ways to strengthen our ecosystem is to talk about it regularly and celebrate all the good things that are going on. And it's because of people like you who are passionate and care that we're going to be really successful as we move forward. So this process has been really good for me. I've met lots of people, and I feel really excited about what's to come. And we're going to be sort of bringing this all to council with an update. So Eric and Chris and Karen have a bit of a preview, but we'll be collecting all of this information. So please do provide more input, and let's keep talking. And if you have a specific initiative that you want facilitated through the district, or you want to work with the district on, please reach out. We're available. Okay, so with that, I want to thank everybody, and y'all get off a few minutes early so you can hopefully go outside for a quick walk and enjoy the sunshine today.